Hello, live from New York City. This is Nicolas Ricciardi from Amvest Capital. Welcome to the Amvest Capital live webinar with American West Ltd. American West Metals trades as AW1 on the ASX, and as AW1 MD on the OTCQB. We hope you will enjoy today's program. A replay will be available on demand following today's program. Q&A, it's a very important aspect of our webinars. Please submit your questions here, and we'll try to ask them on your behalf and submit it in real time. You can also share this event with others during the program. At the end of the webinar, please share your feedback right here. Amvest Capital, it's a New York-based specialist investment and management and corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resource space. This call is for informational purposes only and does not constitute an offer to sell or the solicitation of an offer to sell or buy any security, and should not be relied upon as the basis for investment decisions. Joining us today from American West Metals, it's Managing Director and Founder Dave O'Neill. Following today's presentation, members of the Amvest Capital team will be asking questions to management. We also look forward to any attendee questions you may send in. And now I will turn it over to you, Dave. Please take it from here.
Thank you, Nico. Okay, moving this. Thanks everybody for joining us. And look, people that do know who we are, this is a fantastic opportunity to sort of wrap up the year and give you an update of what we've achieved this year, which we believe is a lot of value add to the company and de-risking of the assets. And to those who haven't heard our story before, this is a good opportunity to fill you guys in. And look, the first thing I'll just touch on quickly, I am talking about resources in this presentation. They the two resources that we have are NI 43101. Just something to be aware of. We are working on a JORC compliant resource for West Desert at the current time. And look, for those who don't know who we are, we are an Australian company, but we globally based. So we've got two assets in Utah, West Desert and Copper Warrior, and one in Nunavut in Canada. The locations of these places are tier one. They're close to existing mines and existing infrastructure. This is very important for us when we put the company together to have be next close to big mines and big operations with obviously the leverage that you get from the local infrastructure and communities that are very supportive of mining. We're lucky to have very high grade assets and high grade portions to our assets which we're going to exploit. We think that's certainly a benefit for us, particularly you know, there's very few high grade copper opportunities globally, and we think we're well placed to be one of those. Like I said, we've got existing resources base, and we think that certainly underlines our value. We've got high value products. We've shown that we can produce some very high grade products from our concentrates and also our ores. And then we've got a great team to move this forward. Now, look, we obviously, despite the markets, we think we've had a very good year. We're going to hit the ground running next year as well. We want to increase the value of the company, and we've got a very clear strategy on how to do that. We want to accelerate the growth of the company. We believe we should be a $200 million market cap company, currently sitting around 25. And you'll see in the share price graph, it has some key activities that have really moved us forward this year. We want to recommence the drilling up at Storm this year a lot earlier than we did last year. We had one of the best copper intersections on the ASX release last year. We want to follow that drilling up and also follow up a major discovery at Storm. There's a lot of buzz in the market about copper, and Storm's certainly a growth story there. We also want to deliver our JORC compliant resource for West Desert and also continue the PFS work there. And at the same time, we also want to increase the value by expanding West Desert and also testing some fantastic exploration space at that project. And the last thing we want to do, obviously, is our maiden drilling campaign at Copper Warrior, which I'll talk to you shortly, but another fantastic asset with amazing growth potential. Just quickly, our team, and you guys may be familiar with the team, but look, based in Australia, we have John and myself, who are founders of American West Metals. also joined by Mike, very strong base of company sales and growth with Exco, etc. We have Tom Perry Goodoff in Canada, Vancouver. So should we decide to list on the TSX at some point, we certainly have the local governance covered. Tom's highly experienced in the Arctic and in Nunavut and Northwest Territories and has fantastic contacts up there. So he's been a fantastic support for us. Also had a new addition to the team, which is Dan Locker. And Dan Locker has recently left but Western Areas, which is $1 billion company, I think is the third or second biggest nickel producer in Australia. And we're lucky to have Dan's experience. He's built mines before, and he's certainly well qualified to lead this company going forwards. Also got fantastic support in North America. Despite our very broad team there, we have Rocky Prey, who runs the North American operations. He's VP operations, very well experienced. He's a mine builder, has done fantastic things in Nevada and more recently in Utah. So fantastic local support, fantastic global, team that's worked internationally. Just quickly on the share price, and some key things to recognise here is that despite the markets, our share price has been fairly flat. So we've maintained that value, which we think is quite a achievement in the current markets. We've had some significant value add activities, and you can see some of the spikes there. We've had some fantastic results at West Desert, which has really had some fantastic market support, and also with Storm. You can see some of the volumes there. Back in August, we had, like I said, one of the better hits on the ASX in terms of the copper intersection. So some fantastic events. So I guess we've been battling the headwinds against the market. But some other key things to point out of this is that we just recently did a raise, 3.4 million added to the coffers back in October. And with that raise as well, we added some fantastic support with some 4 other institutions getting on board for us, which was the first time. And I think particularly with the Storm Copper results, they can really see some growth potential in the company. West Desert. Look, this is our flagship project. This is what we form the company around. It's a large zinc, copper, skarn and carbonate replacement deposit. So it's situated in the same belt essentially as Bingham Canyon and Tintic. Similarities to Bingham Canyon in terms of its genetics and geology. It's an emerging system. There's 60 million tonnes of resources roughly defined at the moment with a high grade core. And to us, that's the real benefit here, and the value is this the ability to stage the project in different ways. Is strategically important as it's actually the only indium deposit in North America. America imports all of their indium from Bolivia, China, Canada, and other sources. So we have the potential to be the very first producer of indium. Indium is a very large byproduct of the zinc at West Desert. 100% ownership. We're fully permitted to do a test pit and an exploration shaft. So most of the property sits on private land, which we own 100%. And it's close to infrastructure. Like I said, we've got power, we've got water, we've got fantastic roads. We're very close to Spore Mountain, which has been a mining operation for the last 30, 40 years. So very well placed. Whoop, I didn't mean to do the dots. So like I said, this is what West Desert essentially looks like on a oblique view. Very large and coherent ore body. So the drilling we did this year showed that the high grades are continuous. It's coherent. We've de-risked the vat, and we intend to increase a lot of the inferred into indicated category with this round of drilling. Very simple and clean metallurgy. We've just done a metallurgy test program on the oxide and transitional material, which you see in the open pit there. Fantastic recoveries of zinc and copper, and with very low acid consumption, which is quite unique for zinc oxide deposits. You can see it transitions into the sulfide very quickly, and then then we can transition into a higher grade sulfide underground. Makes fantastic concentrates, 55% zinc and 32% copper. Very little deleterious elements and very simple mineralogy. Continuing with the feasibility, work at the moment and really working on the JORC compliant resource for West Desert. With that, we're doing a lot of mining studies behind the scenes. So we have taken a little bit extra time to do the resource. We want to make sure that we get the mine plan correct, and we actually can bring the pit and then the underground into a sequential sort of development scenario. That'll allow us to stage the deposit. That'll allow us to have an open pit, very low cost, and then go into the higher grade underground. So two things, silver and gold were not estimated in the PEA resource, so there's a lot of silver and gold in the deposit. This is the very simple value add for us by just including it in the current estimate. Like I said, indium is everywhere in this deposit. It's I think it's the largest indium deposit that's currently undeveloped globally. And with indium being a strategic and critical metal, there's a lot of interest from the US government and in that space. So we've just been given a federal grant to study the indium deportment at West Desert, given the interest in the deposit. This is also a magnetite skarn, so there's a very large component of magnetite iron ore as part of this, and that'll get mined when we mine the zinc and the copper zones. That'll have to come out just as part of the process. So makes a very high quality product, 68% iron. We've put no value on this, but certainly the existing PEA at about 28 million tonnes of iron ore that was going to be extracted as part of the mining operation. So another feather in the cap for West Desert. The expansion potential, like I said, it's West Desert's really one part of a very large system that's really been untouched. This image that you see on the left is a gravity image. The blue there is the central porphyry stock. That's about the same scale and size as Bingham Canyon. And you can see around the margins of that blue there's actually no drill holes. So as Chintic, which is south of Salt Lake City near Eureka, and like Bingham Canyon and Park City, all very well-known porphyries in the area, they all have clusters of these skarn-type deposits around them. We believe that the gravity and the magnetic images show that there is multiple other anomalies in the area. Some of those have got historical drill holes, and some of those have got high-grade copper and zinc intersections in them as well, and they've only got one drill hole in them. So we strongly believe that West Desert's going to expand, particularly once we define an initial resource, we believe it's going to organically expand and add mine life down the track. The last hole we did of the program this year, WD 2219, intersected further high-grade zinc and copper 250 metres to the west of West Desert. So fantastic exploration potential in the area, in the district. So we're going to progress that as well as move the development activities forward as well. We think, particularly where West Desert sits at the moment, that when you look at some of our peers, that we're severely undervalued, and hence we believe that there's a re-rating coming for West American West, particularly once we put out the new resource and demonstrate some of the upside with further drilling and things like that. So you can see that this doesn't include the silver or the gold that will be estimated as part of the current resource, but you can see, certainly we are on a scale and grade that is very compelling when you compare us to some of our peers. Storm. So this is what the copper looks like at Storm, and essentially that photo is what you see at Storm. There's not a blade of grass, there's not a tree, there's not an animal. It's a very benign environment. There's either snow or rock on the ground, and this is 60% copper sticking out of the ground. Yes, we are in the Arctic, but we're in a very favourable location in the Arctic, and it's a historical mining district. And this is important. You don't want to sort of be up in the Arctic in the forest and in areas with a lot of vegetation and things like that. We're on the coast. Seal is essentially the zinc deposit that sits on the coast. There's existing resource there, fairly small at this point, but certainly very high quality. That has been linked to Polaris in terms of the mineralisation event, and they both are related genetically. So lots of, look, we have a very large land holding, over 4,000 square kilometres. It's all on Crown land. All the permitting's in fantastic condition there. Storm sits slightly inland from Seal, about 12 kilometres. We've identified two types of copper mineralisation there, which I'll talk to. This is essentially can be a year-round operation. We operate there only during the summer. We've got a 35-man camp set up. We essentially fly in, turn the thing on, and off we go. So 2 drill rigs on site, very accessible, and we're able to only 100 kilometres south of Resolute, which is the main logistical hub of the north there. So 2 emerging copper deposits, as you will. I guess the district here is extremely interesting from a growth perspective. That it has all the hallmarks of a Mount Isa type system where you have zinc and copper deposits in the same set of stratigraphy. This picture sort of shows a rough schematic of how that's sort of set up, with Seal being located near the coast, as you can see. And Seal is sort of related to a particular stratigraphic horizon within this package. Storm, what's been found to date is there's a lot of outcropping copper along these faults, and that's the near surface mineralisation. That is, the scale of that is really emerging as world-class. It covers over 15 square kilometres. You know, that's where we had an intersection this year of 41 metres at over 4% copper, and there's 32 other holes that have, you know, very decent intersections over 2% copper as well. Significantly, we did make a major discovery this year. We drilled a deep anomaly down 200 and 300 metres, and we discovered a new type of copper in the area, which is essentially the big picture copper. It's we hit over 100 metre intersection of stratiform chalcopyrite and sphalerite, which is telling us a few things about where we sit in the system, but it's a very significant discovery for the project. The near surface mineralisation, this is what's been typically explored to date up here. Like I mentioned, it's very high quality. It's chalcocite and bornite. That's what it looks like there. It essentially comes out of the ground looking like that. It's very simple mineralogy. It's monomineralic. It's hosted within dolomite, within breccias, and fault zones, etc. It's very large scale. We have 4 prospects which show continuity. The typical intersection is over 24 metres thick and over 2% copper. So as you can see, with 32 drill holes there, we've already got a critical mass of mineralisation already defined. This is very exciting for us. We plan to, we drilled the 2750 zone this year and showed extremely good continuity through that deposit. And we're going to follow that up this year and also drill the 4100 and 2200 zones as well. So we want to add value to this. We want to increase the confidence in the resources in the near surface. The other discovery, like I said, so this is the big picture. This is what Antofagasta and BHP originally joint ventured into the project for, but never actually got to drill a hole in this part of the world prior to them leaving for various reasons, obviously, but not because of prospectivity. But our last drill hole of the season, we tested, you can see those large square red plates. They're EM anomalies that were generated as part of last year's program or the year before's program. They're deeper than the near surface. You can see they sit along those black lines, which are the faults. We tested one of those, we hit the edge of it, we've hit chalcopyrite and sphalerite mineralisation, which is very similar to the Congo-style deposits where it's carbonate hosted, a lot of bitumen, hydrocarbons, a lot of pyrite, sphalerite and chalcopyrite. So telling us something about where we are on the system. We think we're on the fringe. Usually these sort of copper deposits usually zone outwards and go through a chalcopyrite, then a bornite, then a chalcozite zone, which is the centre of the system. As you can see there, there's a couple of features worth pointing out, which is the purple shapes, the magenta is IP anomalies. That reflects the near surface mineralisation. You can see there that the coloured image below that is a gravity image. You can see along those faults and between those faults, which is a perfect trap for these copper fluids, there's some significant gravity anomalies. The one to the north there, the 4100 zone, is about 5 kilometres long, so that gives the indication of the potential scale of what we have at depth at at Storm. So look, the exploration program for this year is twofold: is to increase our confidence in the near surface mineralisation, but also to test the deep copper in a number of key areas. Now, the good thing about the near surface material is that it produces. We did some simple ore sorting on it. We managed to produce a 53% copper product, which is literally world class and one of the highest grade copper DSOs globally. That attests to the very simple mineralogy and geology. We essentially crushed the ore some core, put it through the ore sorter in about an inch size, and got 60% copper pile, a 10% and a 0. Very simple, very high value. That product that we made is actually the intermediate product that happens during the copper smelting process. When you take a normal copper concentrate, you turn it into essentially a chalcocite product, and then it gets smelted to being pure copper. So we have that intermediate step. It's a very high value product. The beauty of it is it's very low footprint. It's a simple quarry style operation. There's no processing plant. There's no tailings dams, etc., etc. So these are very cheap to set up, very low overhead costs and very low power consumption. Perfect for the Arctic, and they're also very low footprint where they're semi-mobile. So they're very strong ESG credentials. There's very low pollutants. They're mobile. Essentially, you can move these things around as like a quarry. So this is, I guess, a penny drop moment for us, particularly when we want to work in the Arctic and sensitive areas. This is certainly a very robust way forward for us to get a mining proposal through. Like I mentioned, silver, we do have the Seal deposit up there. This is related to Polaris, small at this stage, but very high grade and high quality. We intend to progress this year or the year after, but this is, certainly the initial focus for us is the copper at Storm, but this is also fantastic opportunity for us. It's open in every direction, so very easy follow-up to it to try and expand this thing. And we have zinc anomalies essentially down the 100 kilometres to the south through our project, so lots of good opportunity to turn this into a Mount Isa style copper and zinc play. Now, just lastly, Copper Warrior. She's always last, unfortunately, but there's a lot of projects to go through. But Copper Warrior is located also in Utah, southeast Utah, very close to the existing Lisbon Valley copper mine, which is actually the second largest copper mine in Utah, only 15 kilometres away down a sealed highway. This is part of the Paradox Basins. This is a different model to West Desert. This is your traditional sedimentary copper style deposit, more similar to the one you might find at depth at Storm. There's copper exposed everywhere on surface. You can see there, this is the malachite and azurite disseminated. That's typically all over our project area. Lisbon Valley is privately owned. They're currently out of ore and they're madly exploring in the area. And us being only 15 kilometres away, if we can define mineralisation there, it could be a very simple toll treating or some commercial option for us to move this project forwards. We did an IP survey this year. This gives the geology here. The schematic on the left shows it's very coal seam-like, as you can imagine, with these copper sedimentary copper deposits, very stratiform, very flat-lying. You can see there's two main units there. We have both of those units in our project, and the main mining unit at Lisbon Valley is actually the lower unit. So that's got the bulk of the resources at Lisbon Valley. You can see on the image to the right, we are very close to existing mines, and essentially that stratigraphy just goes straight into our project. Now, the IP survey has been fantastic. It's perfectly suited for finding disseminated mineralisation. You can see on the left again, there's two very flat-lying anomalies that have been defined, and they seem to match the geology very well. And you can see on the image on the right that some of these anomalies that have been defined are actually the same size as the old Big Indian pit. Certainly anomaly 1 and 2. But you can see anomaly 3 is quite large. It's over 3.5 kilometres long, and it sort of comes off the old pit there and then goes to the south. So we believe that there's going to be resources here, and we've developed an exploration program to test that this year. So that's essentially us in a nutshell. But look, why American West Metals? Well, two things. The key thing is that we have a very high quality portfolio of near-term development potential, and two of our projects are uniquely placed where they have this development potential, but also this fantastic growth and exploration opportunities. So it's very hard to find some high-grade copper projects and companies globally. We believe that Storm is a fantastic growth opportunity, and as it stands at the moment with the near surface mineralisation, that's certainly getting into that world-class scale and grade. There's very few opportunities over 2% copper globally, and what that'll do is put us on the high end of the cost curve there. So fantastic opportunity. We've got a resource base of strategically important critical metals. Like I said, West Desert's got the zinc and the indium and the copper, both strategically and critical metals in the States. So essentially that's us in a nutshell. That's quickly our timeline of what we've got. Lots going on, lots planned. We've got the Copper Warrior drilling, we've got the Storm and Seal getting back up there in hopefully April or May this year, and also the West Desert resource to look forward to hopefully early in the new year. So lots going on, and happy to take some questions.
Thank you for that, Dave. And yes, now we're going to be moving into Q&A. Actually, taking advantage of this slide, the question that came in from the audience, it's when will the JORC resources for West Desert will be published? We're seeing it here, so if you can comment on that would be great.
Yeah, so well, look, we're working through the last iterations of that now. We're only a couple of weeks away from finalising that, but there's still some work going on in the background regarding the best way to skin the cat, essentially, with the mining study. So we are looking at it from a PFS level. We're not just going to put out a bulk, very simple model. We're looking at it from all aspects of how to best optimise the open pit and then move to the underground. So it's a lot more behind, going into that than just a resource. So we are hoping for the back end of this year, but more than likely will be early mid-January or something like that. But it's very close. Very positive about the resource, and very excited to be able to communicate our plans for West Desert moving forward.
And taking that into consideration, Dave, what is going to be budgeting and capital allocation for the different spending in both West Desert and Storm? How are you projecting that? And more specifically, given the shorter window that you have to operate in the Arctic?
Yeah, well, great question. So the Arctic is, we do have a window there, but we haven't exploited the whole window to date. Been a little bit conservative and operating as has been done in the past. But look, we're having discussions now and doing planning that we believe we can get. We've got everything on site all ready to go. It really depends on the weather and access. And so we believe we can certainly operate for at least 4 months of the year up there, if not longer, carefully planned and set up, etc. So with that comes obviously extra cost. 2 rigs running up there, if we can get the 2 rigs going at once, depending on logistics and fuel and salt and things like that. Obviously a bigger burn, but really the biggest cost for Storm is getting up there in the first place, and getting the logistics in place. So once you're on site and 2 rigs are running, then obviously it's economies of scale where you just drill as much as you can. So the drilling costs do come down. So we're working on what the budget will look like for next year at Storm, but it will certainly exceed this year's budget, which was roughly about 2.5 million. Obviously we want to drill double that if we can. We'd like to do 5,000 metres plus, but look, it depends on what we can achieve up there. West Desert, we're doing study activities at the moment, but we are planning to get a drill rig back on site. Like I said, we want to progress the exploration and the growth side of things as well as the development. So really how much we allocate to exploration will depend on our budget at the time. But certainly the scoping level, the PFS level activities, the MET work, that's all very low cost, and most of that's already been done to date. So not a lot of costs associated to West Desert, but as soon as we get the diamond rig up there and we start testing around the porphyry, obviously that's going to be more expensive. So I like to think that we'll have a better idea of that early in the new year, and once we get the resource out, as well as what we want to tidy up around the resource. We'll obviously want to do probably more metallurgical drilling in the oxide zone and more mineralogical domaining there. We want to get the RC rig up there to do that work, and also some water bores and pump testing of the aquifer there. While we have an RC rig up there, we also want to take that down to Copper Warrior. So Copper Warrior and the work at West Desert will go hand in hand. The crew will go down there. That'll obviously reduce the costs and allow us to be more efficient with that rig. So expect those two activities to happen at the same time.
Thank you for that, Dave. Something that you have commented in previous presentations was the possibility of bringing around a strategic partner, primarily for storm. So I don't know if there are some ongoing conversations. People have been more engaged. The tone of that, I think that would be appreciated.
Yeah, look, I think as you can imagine, the kind of assets like Storm and West Desert, there's not a lot of those in the hand of juniors, and so they're getting a lot of interest, particularly West Desert. I mean, West Desert, the growth potential there, people are starting to see that it's, again, like I mentioned, just one element in a very large system. And certainly we see the value, and our baby is West Desert and growing that, but there's a much bigger picture there. So certainly there's some interest from some larger companies. It's important for us to develop a relationship with these guys as well. We'll be needing the local smelters there as well. So, the closest smelter to West Desert, copper smelter is Kennecott there at Salt Lake City, and the closest zinc smelter is Trail BC, which is a PEC smelter. So, we'd love to continue to have a relationship with these guys because, they'll essentially be end users at some point. The Storm, big companies have looked at that in the past, and despite being in the Arctic, a lot of companies are re-looking at the Arctic now. It's one of the few places where these large systems exist, and it's completely unexplored. So sure, there's some interest there. But look, we've also, on the other side of the coin, is that you'll see that getting the team we have together now, we want to show that we can do this ourselves as well. So myself, Dan, Mike, Tom and Rocky, we've all built mines before, globally experienced in operating in different jurisdictions. So we want to show the market as well that we don't need bigger companies to progress these projects. And if it's a matter of funding, if we're well funded ourselves, then why dilute the company for no sense? I mean, for some reason, in some instances, it can be a very good validation of the projects if you do have a major or mid-tier company on board. But certainly we're looking at maximising the value for our shareholders and keeping as much interest in these projects as we can, particularly at this stage when we think they're so undervalued. Why would we give any interest away other than obviously the capital requirements needed to move these projects forward? So that's our mantra. So look, certainly happy to talk to people, but at the same time, we think we've got these assets going along nicely, and we want to continue to grow them and add value to the company as our first instance.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. Another question around drilling. If I understand correctly, the question here is what sort of drilling you are going to be doing in order to make it more effective, if it's going to be diamond DD or RC?
At which project? So West Desert there's some work we'll do with the RC rig because it is cheaper, we can cover ground more quickly, and that's more the shallow exploration and shallow pit work in the pit, updating the resource there or beefing it up or getting metallurgical work, etc. But certainly the deeper work at West Desert will be diamond. There's a limited capacity of the RC rig in that sense, and also in terms of Copper Warrior will be RC. That's all very shallow. It's maximum sort of 300-foot holes, vertical holes, very simple to drill there. So that's going to be RC. Storm, we have 2 drill rigs on site. They're both diamond rigs. And the reason for the diamond up there is, one, they have relied in the past on helicopter support to move the rigs around. And so the need to break those rigs down and have heli-portable rigs has obviously facilitated the diamond rig there. So look, these rigs are very efficient once we get going. They're very small, very low fuel consumption, which is the other consideration in the Arctic, is moving fuel in and around the place is one of the biggest costs. And so the little diamond rigs tend to use less fuel. And look, these rigs were fantastic this year. We had no issues. Despite the last hole ending prematurely because of a technical malfunction, but that thing drilled up to 330 metres. So certainly they've got the capacity to do the work up there, and they move really quickly. We were getting, I think, 50 metres and some shifts up there at the 2750 zone on the shallow stuff. So yeah, the Arctic certainly will progress with the diamond. But look, West Desert and Copper Warrior will balance between the RC and the diamond rig.
Thank you, Dave. Something that has been evolving over the last 2 quarters in the U.S. and in Canada as well has been funding from the federal government, the Department of Energy, towards critical metals. So, given your indium component in West Desert, something that you could be applying for some sort of government funding? Anything you can comment on that would be helpful.
Yes, certainly. Well, there's a couple of aspects to this. The first one is that we've received a federal grant of $300,000 already to study the indium deportment at West Desert. So we won that over hundreds of other projects and companies. As West Desert is uniquely placed in that it is the only indium deposit in the US. It sits next to one of the only beryllium deposits in the US, and that's mainly used for the military there. So Utah's unique in that it has these unique and bespoke kind of deposits that, so they're really promoting that. We've had fantastic support from the US government and the local government there. The UGS there, Utah Geological Survey, has been a fantastic supporter. They've really helped out with the promotion, and we've been all through the news in Utah as well about the jewel sitting out in the West Desert there. So, been fantastic support there in terms of permitting and all that sort of stuff. Like I said, for West Desert, it's certainly helping as well. A lot of that's private land, so that the permitting is much simpler. But we've had great support. In terms of the other funding, yes, we're looking at other types of grants to progress some of the exploration work at West Desert. And in Storm in particular, the Nunavut government there puts out exploration incentive type grants, which is help, projects that with scientifically and technically interesting aspects. And Storm certainly fits that with our discovery hole this year. That really plays to that. So we'll be making an application to get some help from the Canadian government as well to progress Storm. So yeah, lots of opportunity to do that, and we're well placed given the interest in the projects.
Thank you for that. And it just came in a question sort of drilling deeper in what you were just saying. Do you have any sort of valuation on what could be the indium component at West Desert?
Yeah, so if you use the existing PEA resource, there's approximately 56 million ounces. What does that look like in terms of value? Well, indium is a fairly opaque market and a fairly small market as well, mind you. So that's probably enough. We could be the sole supplier of indium in the US for the next 10 years on that basis. Indium value is probably around half to 3/4 of silver. So the 56 million ounces is essentially like having 25 to 30 million ounces of silver value. They extract indium out of the zinc, so we do nothing. So it gets mined with the zinc and copper in the instance of West Desert, and then gets removed in the smelter. So you do need a smelter that recovers zinc, so it has a zinc recovery circuit, and it essentially gets free carried with the concentrate. We make the zinc concentrate, it goes to the smelter, they recover it, and then it gets paid. So very simple, nothing we need to do, nothing extra we need to do, so it's basically a free carry for us. And look, we don't understand the total extent of the system. We have the latest exploration hole we did to the west had a very small intersection of zinc and copper, but out of the total skarn there, it was all mineralized in indium. So indium's not just found in the zinc and copper, is basically in the magnetite there as well. So that's why they want to study this thing. It's just how much is there and why it's there. The why is probably less important from an economic sense point of view, but it's certainly raising the interest of the Geological Survey.
Thank you, Dave. And maybe even drilling deeper in what you were just saying, because another attendee is asking if you have a value on silver, gold, and the magnetite at West Desert.
Yes. So West Desert, as you get deeper, so there's two things. One thing I didn't mention, and apologies, is that being a porphyry, it's attached to a porphyry, and that porphyry is actually a moly copper porphyry. So at depth, particularly West Desert, we see we get a lot of telescoping molybdenite, pyrite, and quartz veins. Some of those go up to 4% molybdenite. So we believe in every single hole that we've hit porphyry, we get disseminated all vein style molybdenite. So we strongly believe that there's, in addition to West Desert, there's a molybdenite deposit that sits to the north within the porphyry, completely unexplored. So like I said, only 10% of that margin's actually been explored. So like Bingham Canyon, these things usually happen in rings around the margins of these porphyries. So that's certainly something for us in the future, and the bottom parts of the mine will actually incorporate some of that high-grade moly mineralisation. So that gives us a chance to essentially add a molybdenite flotation circuit at the back end of that mine life. The silver and the gold is distributed along the porphyry as well in various amounts, and there's zones there that have copper, silver, and gold with no zinc close to the porphyry. And the drilling we did this year really showed that there's some expansion potential in that space. So expect to see in the future growth in gold and growth in silver and gold as well. The silver's all through the deposit, so we'll estimate that as part of this estimation, this JORC compliant resource. That's going to add significant value there. There's some good gold and silver numbers in that. So I think traditionally in the PEA, prior to the PEA, even though it wasn't estimated, they estimated about 10 to 15 grams silver and about 0.2 grams per tonne gold. So look, we don't know what the resource will look like at this point, but it's certainly going to add some value for us. And again, that gets mined with everything else as well, and it's shown very good recovery through the concentrates. So look, the drilling at depth, look, we also think laterally for West Desert, the growth potential is also a long strike, not just at depth. You know, certainly from a mining perspective, there's the old Utah mine to the east of West Desert. That stopped in ore. We have one drill hole underneath that, which has hit 7.5% zinc and 3.5% copper. So we know that high-grade ore exists under that mine. So we believe that, you know, certainly the growth potential is laterally as well as at depth.
Thank you for that, Dave. One of the recent milestones for the company, although you guys are Australians, but you did the OTCQB listing. Have you seen any inflow of new investors coming to the story? What's your take on expanding the cast of characters there?
No, well, we're very new on the OTC, and it's been very quiet, unfortunately. But you know, I guess that's a reflection of us getting into the States and doing the marketing and getting in front of people. So that's certainly our intention. And also the QB, we need to attach investors to certain brokers and things like that to make it easy for them to sort of access it. So look, we're working on that. We intend to do more marketing in the States and come and see you guys and get in front of you and answer the questions. And that, you know, certainly as part of PDAC this year, we'll be up in Toronto. We'll come down to New York straight after that and hopefully meet some people and certainly get the US marketing side of things underway in a bit more gusto. Certainly, it's only been early days on the OTC at the moment, and we're still sort of finding our way through how to best promote that in the US. But yeah, hopefully it will come. If you build it, they will come. And look, like I said, American West Metals really presents a unique opportunity with the high-grade copper opportunity and also the development. You know, if US investors want some junior stocks in the States with fantastic upside, then you know, please look at American West Metals. Like I said, we've got fantastic support in Utah for Copper Warrior and West Desert, and the storm certainly gathered the interest of the market with its fantastic intersections of high-grade copper.
Thank you for that, Dave. And as we are approaching the hour, maybe if you can give us a summarize a couple of bullet points or a news flow that people should be paying attention down the road for the next maybe end of the year, beginning of Q1 in 2023, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so look, we have some storm core on its way to Perth at the moment, which we're doing the beneficiation test work on. So that'll really just prove up the DSO option for that, and really hopefully define a definitive flow sheet for that activity, so we can put some costs around it, what that actually looks like. That's happening between now and the end of the year. Like I said, we're madly working on the JORC compliant resource for West Desert, and hopefully have that out as soon as we can. So that's going to be significant news for American West Metals. You know, again, putting a line in the sand of just how much is there and what our development plans are for that as well. So that's in the new year. And then obviously we'll commence, we want to communicate our plans for Storm and Seal this year as well. So that's in the planning stage at this point. So hopefully we can give the market an update on what the plan for Storm and Seal looks like shortly. And then obviously recommencing the activities in the new year. So drilling at Copper Warrior and West Desert in the first instance with the RC, and then doing some exploration work with the diamond rig at West Desert, and then hopefully getting underway as soon as we can back up at Storm to advance the near surface mineralisation and to test the greater discovery potential there as well.
Excellent. And well, with that, I would like to thank you, Dave. Thanks, American West, and reiterating that we value attendee feedback. So please remember to submit it here. The on-demand replay will be available in about 1.5 hours via the same link that you used to join today's webinar. We hope that you will join us again for future events. You can find a full calendar of upcoming webinars as well at our library, which is amvestcapital.com/webinars. Thank you. Thanks, David, again, and goodbye.
Thanks, Nico. Cheers. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.